Hello and welcome. Can everyone hear me? Yes, wonderful. No echoes. I can hear an echo from my other screen here. Well, I'm glad that you're here today. Jeff is going to be joining us, and when he does, I'll have help with helping people join, but you'll have to bear with me until then. I'm running the show solo. Well, it's 12 o'clock right now, so let's get started. Before we jump in today, I just want to take a minute to talk about why this series exists. I'm passionate about this industry, and like Malin, I want to leave it better than when I came into it. And for that, I chose to host this free monthly management training series. It's an A-list of lineup of trainers, and I'm excited to share them with you. So when we talk about a tune-up, we're not talking about something fancy. There is nothing new under the sun here. No silver bullets or magic formulas. A tune-up, it's about the basics, making sure our fundamentals are solid, doing one thing just a little bit better, looking at what we've been doing and asking, is this still working? I love this industry. I've spent a lot of years in it. And what I've learned is this: the shops that last aren't chasing trends. They're doing the work. They're paying attention to people and they're steady. That's what this series is meant to be. It's not overwhelming or theoretically. It's just steady conversations to help us each think a little bit differently, even slightly, about how we lead, how we communicate, and how we run our shop. Welcome, by the way. I'm really happy you're here. Each month, you're going to hear from someone who has lived this work in shops, different perspectives, different strengths, but the same foundation. Each one of us is in it. My hope is that you're going to be able to take one idea today, not 10, but just one. And if it's helpful, pass that along to someone else. Invite them to the conversation next time. I'm glad you're here. Let's get into the session. This class I wrote, it's called the Shop Owner's Blueprint. Now I have some great news for you. This class comes with a lifetime warranty, but parts and labor is not included. I know, dumb joke, right? We're not going to be fixing cars today, just communication breakdowns. I didn't start behind a desk. I started working inside the shop, on the floor, at the counter, and in the middle of the noise and interruptions. I wore the gear, I handled uncomfortable conversations, and lived days that don't slow down just because you're tired. These photos here, they're not to prove my value. It's to show you that I understand the environment that this blueprint is built for. Because systems that look good on paper don't survive shop life unless they respect reality. What we're going to talk about today was shaped by real shops, real people, and days that don't go as planned. And that perspective matters. I don't romanticize shop life. I remember exactly how loud it is. And most people, well, they don't expect my name to be Birdie. And it's not what's on my birth certificate. It started out as a nickname the very day I was born. And like most good nicknames, it stuck because it fit better than original. It's short, it's memorable, and a little unexpected, kind of like my career path. And I didn't start in the office. I spent nearly 3 decades in and around auto repair shops, collision specifically. I started detailing, moved into wet sanding and pre-masking, final wet sanding and polishing. I learned the hands-on work before I ever got into the paperwork. And it's only after all of that that I moved to the front end: estimates, customers, parts, payroll, insurance. I lived the shop life before I ever worked in that office. And because of that, I don't come from the perspective from the outside. I come at it from the inside out. Over the years, I have done a lot of translating between owners and teams, between customers and the systems in the shop, between good intentions and what actually works day to day. And one of the people who helped tune how I see this industry and leadership was Malin Newton. He had a way of cutting through the noise and bringing it all back to people first. That lens stayed with me, and it's woven into how I approach my work today. This isn't a resume slide, although I guess it is. It's a context for why this blueprint works in the real world. Before we get tactical, I just want to take a moment and ground us here. Because of the way that we build businesses, it's shaped by where we learned the work, how we learned to solve problems, and what we believe actually matters. And that is what brings me here today with you. Over time, I started noticing a certain pattern. It's not just in one shop, but across many. Different towns, different owners, different challenges, yet the same phases in business kept showing up: build, grow, legacy. It wasn't linear, but more like seasons that we move through. I want to give you a real example. Zach at Bellingham Auto Works. He was so smart, respected. He knew his craft. He was so talented. But most of these decisions, they lived in his head: how everything was handled, what mattered, and what came next. He skipped right over the build, and as his shop grew, the pressure grew with it. There was more cars, there was more people, more decisions landing all on just one person, and growth didn't bring relief. It added weight. He was such a great guy. Rough filing system. It was all stored upstairs. And here is where this blueprint, it becomes necessary. Build, it's where the foundation gets set, your mindset, your habits, your standards, your culture. During grow, that's where gaps get exposed. And when that foundation isn't clear, pressure really shows up quickly. And here we go into legacy, leaving. It's what holds when you're not the one answering every single question, when someone else has to carry that shop forward. Most shops don't struggle because the owner isn't committed. They struggle because growth comes before structure, or legacy, it gets postponed until someday. This framework, it's not theory, it is a pattern. I've seen it repeat inside real shops. So today, we're going to walk through these. Oh, bear with me here. We're going to walk through these 3 stages, not to pile more on, but to help you see where you are and what actually needs attention next. And start where all of it begins. Here's where I want you to be honest with yourself. There's no judgment here, okay? We're not fixing anything yet, but look at these 3 and notice which one feels familiar to you. Misfiring. Things feel off and energy might be dragging, and there's little fires everywhere. Or maybe things are idling smooth, stable and reliable, comfortable. It could be heading towards legacy, or maybe you're coasting. Or if you're redlining, you're busy and you're stretched thin, everyone's fried, but there's no room to breathe. Please drop what you're feeling at your shop in our chat. Not for me, but for you. And I hope I can find it in here. I'm trying to juggle a lot of screens. Because your shop energy shows up before you do, and it doesn't lie. If you're redlining, your team is feeling that. If you're misfiring, they're compensating. And if you're idling smooth, this is your chance to decide with intention what comes next. There's no wrong answers. This is not a diagnostic test. Oh, I went to check the chat and off everything went this screen. Bear with me here. Welcome, Dawn. Before you even say a word, something already showed up. Your energy, it beat you through the door. Customers don't wait for an estimate to decide how this is going to feel. They read your shoulders, your tone, your pace, your face, and that all happens instantly. I learned early on that most shops, they don't have processes. They have moods and seasons. Moods leak. And you know that difference, right? That Tigger energy walks in happy, that can do attitude. Everything is fine, even when it isn't, but he is still bringing his best self for that day. Or the Eeyore, that energy that drags the weight of yesterday and drops it on the counter. Neither one is about being good or bad, but it is about being intentional and your awareness. I watched a service advisor once who had clearly fought with his entire morning. Printer was jammed, phone ringing, parts were late. And by the time the customer walked in, his sigh had already answered his question. It was going to be a no. Pressure didn't come from price, it came from uncertainty, wearing a name badge. That's when I realized that attitude isn't personal, it actually is operational. If I don't manage what I carry into the shop, the customer feels it. And trust quickly gets heavier to earn. It's not about being cheerful all the time. It's about being intentional because your attitude doesn't stay inside you, it walks in first. And once we can see that, we start building our systems that protect people from bad days. And when I say build, I'm not talking about starting from scratch. You already built something. It's most likely that it grew faster than it was designed to. Most shops don't need some brand new foundation. We don't. We need to revisit the one that's been built under pressure. Build starts with our mindset, our habits, and our consistency. And it's not because we did it wrong. It's because what worked then might not serve you now. Your shop's culture is your foundation. Whether you have named that culture or not, it's already there. And on your best day, it supports you. And on hard days, it shows the cracks. Calm creates clarity. And clarity, that creates productivity. And productivity, it restores trust. This isn't about tearing something down. It's about deciding what gets reinforced, what you allow, what you ignore, and what gets repeated. If this is going to change, someone has to intentionally choose it, and that someone gets to be you. So before we talk about systems or structure, let's get clear on what you're rebuilding on purpose. Before I rebuild anything, I stop here because this is where real change actually starts. It's so easy to point at what's not working. You and I know it. The team, the customers, the stress. That build work starts with standards, not symptoms. And I learned that early from the shop. Stan's auto body. Stan didn't talk about culture, he lived it. There were clear ways things were done, even if they weren't written down yet. Preparation wasn't optional. Consistency, that wasn't negotiable. It's what created freedom. It wasn't the hustle or the heroics. When I stepped into his shop, I felt that immediately. It was calm, it was order, it was expectation. We were hustling. It wasn't perfect, but it was steady. So here's my question. If I walked into your shop today, what would I feel first? Calm, urgency, tension? Now, may or may not be the culture you want it to be, but what does it actually feel on a busy day? Profit, oh, hey, there we go. Welcome. Profit doesn't come from a great repair. It comes from how the whole system shows up consistently. Great work matters, but great work wrapped in confusion still feels stressful. I've seen shops do everything right mechanically, and still they lose momentum because no one knew what was happening next. There weren't clear updates, no shared language, no rhythm that the team could rely on. And that's the part that so many owners don't see. Customers are not reacting to the repair. Usually, they're really reacting to the experience surrounding it. When communication flows, small mistakes get grace, right? When it doesn't, that even good work feels heavy. And that's true. Most shops don't need better people, they need fewer mysteries. This usually isn't a money problem, it is a clarity problem. And when clarity improves, profit usually follows that without pushing, discounting, or forcing. And here is where inside and outside systems and culture they collide. What's happening behind the counter always shows up in front of it. The team communication, internal trust, that equals your customer's confidence. They move together. And I saw this clearly at my next shop, Bellingham Auto Works. Great work, real talent, but wow, the internal trust, it was razor thin. Payroll pressure on Fridays with techs waiting after hours in their car for their paychecks. Return parks stacked up without a plan, filling an entire, now unusable bay. Keys floating. No one knew where to find them. I mean, they were on their own spiritual journey with that time and efficiency lost. And tension, it spilled over. It didn't stay in the back. It showed up in the tone on the phone and also that hustle in person, in communication, which translates to confidence and into consistency. Customers felt it. And here's the part most shop owners miss: you can't market your way out of internal distrust. If the team doesn't trust the process, it gets expensive. And customers, they don't trust the recommendation. Know, like, and trust, it does not start online. It starts behind the counter with your team. And I'll talk about this more in Grow. When internal trust in your shop is solid, sales stops feeling pushy. The yeses get easier. And your marketing starts working with you instead of against you. And that's the shift that we want to head into next. Here it is. Your face. It tells the story before your mouth does. I've walked into shops where the service advisor, they look like they've lost a fight with their morning. Their shoulders are slumped. They're sighing at the printer like every car personally betrayed them. Now imagine you're that customer. You haven't even heard a word yet, but your brain has already decided, ugh, this is going to be expensive. That's not a sales problem. It is an energy problem that turns into an unsold work problem. Here's the truth: you are the thermostat, not the thermometer. You get to set the temperature, not just react to it. You get to choose. If the front counter feels tense, rushed, or checked out, customers feel it immediately before the price, before the explanation, and before trust. That's why culture isn't something soft, it's visible and tangible, and it's shaped every day by what we allow, ignore, and celebrate. So let's talk about what happens when we let the little things slide just a little too long. Take a moment, think about your shop culture for a second. Not the one that's on your website, but the real one that shows up every single day. Culture isn't created by that poster on the wall or the team meetings. It's shaped by what we allow, what we ignore, and what we celebrate. What I tolerate quietly becomes the standard in my business. And what I ignore teaches people what actually matters. And what I celebrate, that gets repeated. Thank goodness. This is where shop owners can lose leverage without even realizing it, not because they don't care, but because they're busy and they overlook it, they ignore it. So here's a quick gut check. If you had to pick one right now, what do you do the most? Do you allow, ignore, or celebrate? Would you take a second and drop that word into chat for me? No judgment, just information. Because whatever you're seeing here, that's the temperature that your team likely feels every single day. And if that temperature is off, it shows up everywhere else. Yes, I'm seeing lots of celebrate, and it makes me so excited. Here's a story that I keep circling back to, and you may be familiar with it. If you put a frog, drop him into boiling water, he jumps out of there immediately. But if you put it in cool water and slowly turn up the heat, it stays, it adjusts. And that's how burnout happens inside of a shop. It's not from just one bad day or one bad hire, but from that drip, drip, drip. We say, I'll fix that later, one too many times. And the heat goes up another degree. Clarity slips and morale drops. Margins, guess what? They follow suit, they shrink. And because it happens so slow, welcome. That becomes the dangerous part. You don't notice the temperature changing when you're standing in it every single day. But you know who does? Your team. And your customers do too. This is where good shops can get stuck. Not broken, but overheated. It's when you ignore these signs long enough that you end up exactly where Malin Newton used to warn us not to be, in that hostage situation, a job with a lot of overhead, right? So the question becomes, how do you cool things down without turning off the flow? When you ignore those signs long enough, you don't get tired, you feel trapped. And so here we're going to move into where grow begins. Build, that's about stabilizing what's already there. And grow, this is about our intention. At this stage, most shops don't need more work. They need better work, better customers, and better follow through. Somewhere in here is where growth usually breaks down. New customer acquisition, customer retention, and unsold work. These are not three separate issues. They're symptoms of the same thing, or better yet, these are opportunities. If your internal systems are unclear, growth, it feels expensive. Welcome, Ian. If your culture is shaky, marketing has to work harder, and that is more expensive. If trust isn't solid, your customers, they hesitate, they defer, or worse, they disappear. Growth isn't about doing more, it's about removing friction. And that's what we're going to work through next. I want you to listen for where things leak, not for where you think they need to push. Grow's about intention. By the time that someone has called your shop, their decision is already half made. They didn't read everything on your website. They scanned, they compared, they formed a feeling, not about your services, but what it might feel like to work with you. That comes from your photos, your reviews, your responses, truly, and your tone. That's that first handshake. So many shops think marketing starts with ads, but it doesn't. It starts with alignment. Well, it can start with ads if you have deep pockets and choose to line your Google partners' pockets. But truly effective organic marketing, it begins with system alignment and then sharing that. When what someone sees online doesn't match what they experience in person, trust hesitates. And hesitate shows up like price shopping, like delays and unsold work. And I learned it the hard way. Internal chaos, it doesn't stay inside the building. It leaks out as inconsistency long before anyone picks up the phone. Growth gets easier when your online presence simply reflects reality. Clear systems inside, clear signals outside. And that's the lens that we get to use from here on out. You've probably heard this before, and if you hadn't, Malin used to say it. People don't buy auto repair. They're buying you. They buy confidence, safety, and relief. They're not really asking, can this shop fix my car? They're asking, can I trust these people with my problem? Now, I learned this standing at the counter, camera in my hand, same customer, same concern, two very different experiences. There's Bill on the left. He's a good tech, a smart guy. If you notice, he's got that ciggy in his hand and dial-up computer, dirty office with a pinup girl calendar on the wall. Nothing he said was wrong, but everything around him made customers hesitate. And on the other side, there's Cindy, clean counter, calm tone. She's making eye contact, a smile as she's busy. The words might not have changed much, but the feeling of doing business with them did. And that's the part so many shops miss. Tone sells before price ever shows up. And this doesn't just happen at the counter, it happens before the phone rings. The photos, your reviews, the language, the consistency, they answer that trust question before you ever speak. And it starts with no, moves to like, and then into trust. So, this is where shops get stuck. They talk about what they do instead of who they are. When a shop knows who they are, marketing stops feeling pushy and becomes an introduction. And when trust is clear, that's when the sale starts feeling easy. So many shop owners, they're not struggling with their knowledge, they're struggling with their words. I know that you know what the car needs. The hesitation, it usually shows up when it's time to explain it. The right language builds. It builds value before cost ever enters the conversation. We care about your safety and reliability. That lands so differently than that'll be 400 bucks. When the words aren't clear, conversation it quickly turns into rambling, discounting, or worse, over explaining. Customers sense that immediately. Confidence isn't something that's memorized, but clarity is something that practice. It isn't about sounding so salesy, right? It's about saying the same true thing, the same calm way every time. When your team knows what to say and why it matters, trust holds and the decision and the yes come easier. Clear words protect margins, morale, relationships, and that's how recommended work percentages improve. Here we are. What gets measured gets managed. It's the truth, isn't it? Now, Google, that's primarily the first place someone meets our shop. As a matter of fact, I just call the internet Google. Before they call, they trust, and before they decide. It's important. This screen tells me one thing. Am I actually showing up online? This isn't vanity. It is customer behavior trends. It's true. Here it is. Again, what gets measured does get managed. And if I'm not checking on my Google organically, I'm not managing my growth. I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping. And hope that's not a strategy. If if then I'm relying on pay-per-click Google Ads to artificially inflate my rankings, that's expensive and it's addictive behavior. Earlier, I talked about what happens when things float. You know, the keys, the parts, the decisions. But this is where the buck stops. This is where consistency gets measured quietly, clearly, and in real time. I take a look at this for my clients regularly, at least monthly, if not weekly. My message, it stays steady, and our team isn't guessing because of this. This is how growth stays intentional instead of accidental. And I want to guide you through this. We're not going to spend a lot of time, but here we are. One thing we look at when I talk about organic marketing, and maybe let me go back a slide here. We can just take a moment if I can. There we go. I just want to mention, I have a few of these circled. Your edit your profile. If you go in there, you can fill out your profile, and there are so many details that you could optimize. This will help you show up online. And of course, your read reviews, maybe your CRM has an all-inclusive system, but this is where you see your real Google reviews. Maybe they're showing up on SureCritic instead. You won't know unless you take a look inside your organic profile. And while we're in there, we want to take a look at it. Google shows you the most recent 6 months. So you got to make sure that that drop down menu, it's on month over year, month over month per year comparisons. And hopefully you're going to be up, but no one is up every month, every year. But we're taking a look at the general overview, and calls, they're our biggest lead source. We want to take a look at that. And direction requests, that's important in website clicks. So that's your online visibility, your popularity in the online contests. This is the real behavior from real people. Organic marketing works for you when your information is complete, when it's current, and when it's active. Your photos, your responses, your categories, all of your updates, those are each are signals. And those are the ones that Google trusts to recommend you and float you in front of others. It's not about being clever, it's about being clear. When your profile reflects who you actually are, Google does the heavy lifting for you. And that's how shops replace big ad budgets with steady, predictable visibility. It's not louder marketing, it is cleaner signals. And this is where our organic growth comes from. It's one of the places that I like to keep my eye because guessing gets expensive quick. And if you use pay per click, then you know. Organic doesn't mean passive, it means intentional. And here we're moving on to the next slide. Yelp is one of those platforms, right? People love to hate them. Chances are you do. But if you're on an iPhone, it's already part of the conversation. Siri, Safari, Apple Maps, and even Bing. That is its primary search engine is Yelp. It's relevant whether we like it or not. I don't see it as some big powerhouse, but it is influential. And you don't have to spend money with Yelp. You do have to pay attention though. They're more than just a customer complaint site. What I usually see is one of two things: a profile that's just been ignored for years and maybe not even claimed, or one that's been touched only when there's an issue. And neither one helps us. This is organic marketing in real time: photos, categories, service, hours, updates. All of these are quiet signals that tell someone who you are before they choose to call you. Yelp rewards clarity and consistency. It's not noise. Welcome, Corrine. It's not panic and it's not perfection. A few intentional updates here can change impressions and clicks and trust without spending a dollar with them. And this is one of the great reasons that I care so much about metrics. It's not vanity, it is customer behavior. Because when you do measure what matters, you can manage your growth instead of hoping for it, right? And once someone clicks here, they land where it matters, which is your website. And let's talk about where that intention goes next. Here, I just want to point out that that's your login. Once you get logged in, you can see your performance and you click into there, and these are there every month for you to take a look at. Here we are, our website. And I have no intention of criticizing this shop. They're doing so many things right. That dog is cute. The personality, that's good. And their intention is so good. But where things fall apart here is clarity. There's small black font on dark gray. The gradient, there's the red on that dark gray. I can't see it, but it's kind of agitating, honestly. There's so many services competing for attention. They're all trying to speak at once, and none of them are what we need. Tires, alignment, maintenance, social links, and videos, everything is competing. It's like a headache on a page. There is a call button, so that's great. There's multiple exits pulling people away from booking. You see that social media? I'm already frustrated about my car. That's where I'm headed. And I'm going to go down this Facebook scroll of doom. This is how customers get into bouncing. And like I said, Google is a popularity contest. The more people that bounce off of your website, the quicker that they bounce, the lower your rankings go. And it's not because this shop isn't capable or isn't doing good work. It's because the page is asking them to decide too much, too fast. When someone lands here, they're not browsing, they're stressed out. They want one clear next step. Busy doesn't feel helpful, it feels overwhelming. And overwhelmed customers don't call, they leave. And this is how great shops lose great customers before they ever get a chance to show how good they really are. Clarity doesn't mean boring, it means guiding. And when the website guides the way, trust keeps moving forward. People decide fast, not logically, but emotionally. Easy or stressful, organized or chaotic, calm or tense. They're not reading every single word, they're scanning for signals. The photos, the reviews, your replies, your consistency, the calm nature. Look at this use of white space. Already it feels like it's going to be easy. And if I look, they're addressing my concerns. A shop did started work before I gave approval, or they gave me my car back before everything was fixed. It's identifying the problems that people have. And here's 4 reasons you can trust us. We're local, we have rewards, we have a warranty system, and we're convenient. Whew. They also have 3 book appointment buttons. I cut one off down there, but this is a piece and this is solution right here, waiting for me, and I need my car fixed. Before anyone calls your shop, they've already decided how they feel about it. They've seen your photos, they've seen your reviews, the replies, or the silence. They've picked up cues about care and organization, professionalism without even realizing it. This isn't marketing, it's body language online. People, they don't trust perfect, they trust recognizable. Seeing faces, real spaces, and those replies, that tells them I know what I'm walking into. And that sense of continuity, it matters. It's how trust forms before a word is even spoken. This is where growth and legacy quietly overlap. Visibility isn't about showing off, it's about showing up the same way over time. So people feel like they already know you before they walk through the door. When what they see matches what it feels like to stand at your counter, trust locks in. And this is where a lot of shops pull back. They stay safe, generic, and invisible. But people don't trust perfect or generic. They trust what's familiar. They want to see that your shop, your team, your work, your day to day reality, even the mistakes and the messes, they're not looking for stock photos or slogans or some type of professional, polished, cold distance. When I see these real faces, these real replies, these real moments in the shop, I know what to expect and what kind of experience I'm walking into. This is how culture shows up today. What you say you value and what you show. Consistency, it matters more than polish. Current matters more than curated content. And here is where I want to slow it all down, because growth without care, it is just noise. Care is how I check alignment. It's not, again, about perfection. C is consistency. Are we showing up the same way online, on the phone, and at the counter? Not occasionally, but predictably. A, for authenticity. Does what people, before they call, what they see, does it match what they feel when they arrive your shop? Or does this feel like 2 different businesses? We have R for response. Are questions, reviews, and messages, are they acknowledged? Not explained away or avoided, but truly answered. And E, engagement. Are we participating or just posting? Are we present where customers are already paying attention? This isn't about doing more. It's about doing a few things on purpose every single time. When care is in place, trust compounds quietly. And when trust compounds, growth stops feeling forced. And here's why this matters beyond your marketing. If the business only works when you're watching everything, if trust lives inside your head instead of relying on your systems, then nothing that you have built is transferable. And legacy, this is where our blueprint, it comes full circle. Build, grow, and legacy. They're not separate ideas. It's the same work practiced. It's a journey over time. And when I say legacy, I'm not talking about retirement or selling someday. I'm talking about whether your shop works because of you, because of what you've built. Strong systems are how work gets done without the heroics. Decision makers are how trust multiplies instead of getting bottlenecked. Lasting shops are what happen when both coexist together. This is the part so many owners skip. And it's not because they don't care, it's because no one showed them how to make it practical. Everything that we talked about earlier, our mindset, our culture, our communication, the visibility, this either feeds legacy or it can work against it. So, in this last section, I want you to think less about leaving your business and more about what would still hold if you did step back tomorrow. That is what the shop owner's blueprint is in real life. It doesn't start when we're ready to leave. It's happening every single day. And it usually lives in three places: your decisions, your standards, and the boundaries that you place. Decisions are who gets to decide what and when. Standards, standards are what good looks like when you're not standing there monitoring. And boundaries, that is what the business will or will not tolerate and guides the shop. So many owners aren't struggling with effort here. They're struggling with their own clarity. When decisions are unclear, people tend to hesitate. And when those standards are fuzzy, quality can drift. And when your boundaries aren't named, that's where resentment grows. This is where legacy is quietly formed. It's not in paperwork, it is in the patterns. Before I ever thought about legacy as a concept, I watched it play out in shops. Owners often don't realize that they have options. We're so busy running the shop that the idea of choice doesn't even show up. But you do have options. And this slide, it shows where that becomes visible, tangible. You can keep your business and control it. And that feels great. It's where most shops start, right? Running your own day to day. You're involved because you care and because things work better when you are watching. In the early years, this feels responsible, necessary, even, right? The problem is control doesn't scale. And over time, it turns into codependency. Now we can move over to keep and delegate, and this one sounds awesome. More money for you, more time for you, and more freedom. But here's the caution. If the systems aren't clear, delegation, that can drift. And one day you might have to step back into a business that's struggling and has lost its reputation. And it's not from a lack of care. It's a lack of clarity and accountability that weren't strong enough to hold that system. When the right documentation and standards are in place, this becomes a very viable long-term option. And without them, it becomes risky. Selling. Here we are, the ultimate legacy, right? The option so many people mention quietly, but often it's later than they should be talking about it. And there's a good chance that someone inside your shop right now has thought about buying the shop. A tech, a service advisor, a partner, someone who already understands your shop culture. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to finance the whole business. And the issue is banks, they don't fund potential. They fund clarity. If profitability is transparent and your systems, they're documented and decisions don't depend on you, sales becomes real. And that's where things like a structured bonus plan, down payment paths, and clean financials, they come into play. There is so much to pack into this one. But then we can move into close. And most people don't plan for this. They slide into it a little late. Burnout, health, family pressure. Somehow life intervenes and that's where they end up. And when there's no alignment or preparation, that's what close becomes the default. So this slide right here, it's not about leaving your business. It's about realizing that you actually have a choice. You have choices, and they only exist when the business is not trapped up in here. That's why legacy starts to work. Every interaction, every decision, every follow through, it's doing one of two things. It's either reinforcing trust or quietly eroding it. Your name isn't just on the sign, it shows up in how problems get handled, how people are treated, and what happens when things go sideways. What I learned early on is this: reputation, it is not protected by good intentions, it's protected by repeatable behavior. Now, shop owner Stan, I worked with him for 10 years. Stan didn't talk about culture. He didn't use big words or write manuals, but there was a clear standard for how each thing was done. Customers trusted the way that our shop operated, not just the person at the counter. They knew what to expect, even if Stan wasn't there that day. And that's why his business held value. The reputation, it wasn't tied to one personality. It was embedded in the way that decisions were made, problems were handled, and work was followed through. That's the difference most owners miss. Legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about being represented correctly when you're not in the room. When your systems, when they speak clearly, your reputation, it doesn't drift. It stays intact under pressure, under change, and in growth. Good intentions don't scale, systems scale. And let's face it, legacy, it doesn't rest on just one thing. It rests on alignment, systems, leadership, finances, and family. Each one has to be in that same conversation. When one is missing, the other carries more weight than they're meant to, and it creates stress. Systems are what makes a business predictable. They tell people how decisions get made, how work moves, and what matters when things go wrong. And leadership is how those systems get modeled. It's not what you say, what you reinforce, what you allow, and what you step in for. Finances are what makes choices possible, and we all know that in a personal level too. Clean books, clear profit, transparency that banks and buyers can understand. And then here's the part that so many owners avoid talking about, and that is with their family. And I want to slow down here for a moment regarding that. Communication is key. And I've got a story to prove it. One of our awesome, amazing women in automotive shop owners, Ashlyn, she and her dad ran their business together for years. They talked all the time. They planned together. They vacationed together. And they trusted each other. They had such a close relationship. But what didn't happen was a full family conversation about the business with mom. Her dad never clearly told mom what that transition plan was. And then unexpectedly, he suffered a terrible heart attack and passed away. And all of a sudden, mom owned a shop that she didn't understand, and she was scared of what it meant for her financial future as a new widow. Ashlyn, who had already earned the shop from working there for years, had to take out a bank loan, actually take out a bank loan and legally purchase her own business from her mother. Their business survived because systems were solid, the financials were clean, and the operations did make sense to a bank, thank goodness. And their family survived because they chose to keep talking. Yeah, of course they're still in therapy, but they still have their family dinners and family vacations. They celebrate their holidays together, and mom still comes to the shop sometimes. Not every family can endure that type of trial. And that's the part I want you to hear. Legacy without communication, that becomes a burden to the people that you love. And it's not from a lack of care. You do. It's because no one said the quiet parts out loud. It's hard. And alignment, it doesn't happen automatically. It has to be chosen intentionally. When systems and leadership and finances and your family are all aligned, legacy stops being fragile and it becomes something that can actually hold. When I talk about a playbook, I'm not talking about philosophy. I'm talking about basic survival here. If I had to run your shop tomorrow, could I actually do it? Could I log into your point of sale system without calling you? Do I know who runs your payroll? How often? And what happens if they're sick? Do I know who to call when that alarm goes off at 2 a.m.? Who and where are the vendor contacts, your part suppliers, tow companies, the IT, your domain, your website host? You remember that Google profile, that Google access? What email? It's not who you think knows, but where is it written down? Passwords matter. The banking, payroll, Google, Yelp, site, social, emails. That's a big one. If they only live in your head, your business pauses when you pause. And what about the small stuff? Coffee filters, shop supplies, who orders them and when? It sounds silly until it's not done and everyone's irritated. Marketing access matters too. Who can post? Who can respond? Who owns the accounts and how do you transfer them? If you disappear, does your online presence freeze? This playbook, it is nothing fancy. It is this living document that answers that one question. If something happened to me, could this business keep moving? Because legacy, it isn't built in emergencies. It's built by writing things down on that normal Tuesday afternoon. And once your playbook exists, something changes. The shops stop relying on memory. The pressure eases and business, it gets lighter. That's what real preparedness, tongue twister here, that's where legacy actually begins. Legacy, this gets real when we stop talking about someday and we start putting structure around options. If a tech service advisor or family member has ever said, I'd like to buy this business one day, that's where it all begins. It's not with some contract. It starts with a letter of intent. Just request for one. A letter of intent helps them think like an owner. It clarifies what they think that they're buying, what's included, and what needs to be true for transitions to work. If real estate is involved, there needs to be two letters of intent, one for the business and one for the real estate. Mixing those creates a ton of confusion fast. Now, this is not about locking someone in. They're not fully committed. This is about creating alignment early while your relationship is still healthy. And here's the part many owners miss. Banks don't finance on hope. They finance on clarity. It's a clean cash flow, predictable profit, and documented systems. That's why transparency matters. It's not just for you. It's for the future buyer that you may already be training. And this is also where the bonus plan comes in. Instead of you financing an entire sale, you create a path where the future buyer earns their own down payment. And imagine how that will feel. Performance bonuses tied to leadership and results and responsibility. They build equity mindset before they own the equity. This protects you and it prepares them. And none of this works in isolation. You need your advisory circle, people who understand your numbers, the accountant, your attorney, your insurance agent, and someone who understands people in transition, your coach or your marketing guide. They're not here to make your decisions for you, but they are here to help you see clearly when your emotions get in the way. Legacy isn't just making one big move. It's the series of small, visible decisions that make each next step possible. And that's how a business becomes transferable without breaking relationships. Legacy can feel heavy. If we treat it like a someday project, and that's why I don't, I want to break this down until it's usable. Big changes almost never start big. It starts specific. One habit you're going to commit to consistently, not forever, just enough to make it normal. One system that you get to finally document, not perfectly, but just clearly enough that someone else could follow it. One conversation that you've been avoiding with a team member, a family member, a future buyer, or even yourself. That's how you can eat that elephant one bite at a time with a lot of barbecue sauce. That's a tribute to Malin, if you knew him. That's what he used to like to say. This is how legacy actually gets built in real time when you're still running the business. It's not at retirement. It's not when things slow down. It's on the average Tuesday afternoon. And so before we wrap this section up, I want to ask you to pick your three. Write them down somewhere. If it's a sticky note or a notebook or in your notes on your phone, anywhere that you're going to see them again, because this is how clarity turns into continuity. And if you already know what your one habit is, will you drop me a thumbs up in the chat? I'd love to see. Legacy isn't something that we plan for later. It's something that we practice every single day. So here, do you believe that legacy is about leaving, selling, retiring, or stepping away? That's not where it's built. Legacy is built when you're still in the shop, where the decisions that you repeat, and when you take the time to write them down, in who can step in when you step out for that day. Stan, shop owner Stan, he didn't think in terms of legacy. He thought in terms of doing things right, repeatable, that same way every time. What made his business so valuable, that wasn't luck. It was preparation. And then Zach, he showed me the opposite, the other side. Talent without systems created pressure, and pressure leaks into the people, the communication, and the trust. There's nothing wrong, but it's not transferable. Because life changes without you asking for permission. It does. And when it does, you've either built what you've built either supports you or it traps you. Legacy is knowing that your shop doesn't fall apart when you're not there. It's knowing your people aren't guessing. And it's knowing your reputation is working for you even when you're not working. That doesn't require any type of massive overhaul, but it does require intention. That one habit done consistently, your system written down, your conversation, having it, the one that you've been avoiding. That is how strong businesses are built. And that's how trust compounds and how legacy actually takes shape. If this presentation, if it made you pause even a little bit, that is worth paying attention to. Trust is built in moments. And right here, this is one of those moments. So if you would like to keep any of this momentum going, I'd love to offer you a complimentary 20-minute Shop Talk Clarity call. It's just real talk, no sales pitch, just one-on-one to see where you're at and maybe what direction you're ready to head. You're going to have a care starter pack that comes with my email, because honoring legacy, it means putting these lessons into action starting right now. And when we look forward to the next month's train, I have a note in here. I wanted to look forward to share with you that Jeffrey Knott, Jeff, can you raise your hand in there? He is teaching a class called Networking Unlocked. He has been a shop owner for over 30 years and sold his business successfully. He goes to networking events and he is an industry leader, but not only that, he's a community leader. He is a top networker. So he's going to share his tips and tricks next month and help you become a star networker yourself. So thank you so much for spending your time with me today. And I hope to see you next month.